Hey there, Mike Walsh from Straight Path Solutions. A couple thoughts today that just came to me. Actually, I discovered a new podcast recently that I'm really liking. It's called Choiceology by Dan Heath. You may have heard the name Dan Heath. He and his brother Chip wrote a couple books. This one is one I read many years ago called Made to Stick. I think it's why some ideas survive and others die, I think, or I lost the dust cover. Why some ideas survive and others die. It's actually a pretty good book. These guys have a lot of sort of psychological background or psychology background, and behaviorology or studying behavior, whatever the right word is, background, and they really study human behavior. And this book's really cool. It's kind of it's like why do urban myths and urban legends survive, while the truth sometimes doesn't survive. So that's kind of the premise of this book. And then recently, at Relativity Fest, Relativity, it used to be called K-Cura. They're a software provider we do work for, a lot of their customers. They have a great conference every year, probably one of the best industry conferences I've been to, just in terms of the sort of the quality of the people they get. But they get great keynote speakers, and they actually had the brothers come talking about their new book called The Power of Moments. And this is actually a pretty cool book, just as I'm going through kind of building a customer service business and trying to bring people in and all. But anyway, one of the brothers, I just said it earlier, I think it's Dan. I'm pretty sure it's Dan, but one of the brothers, Dan Heath, I'll send a link, just started a podcast with Charles Schwab Investment. The podcast really is not about investment, although they sponsor it, so it kind of it loops into investments. But it's really interesting. It's called Choiceology, and he talks a lot about behaviors and psychology and how people make decisions. And a very recent episode, just from March 12th, so just this past week's episode, it's called Summit Fever. And he talks about a few examples. One of them talks about the famous Everest disaster year, the 1996 year, where too many climbers died. And he actually interviews a couple of the climbers who survived and talks a lot about what went wrong that year. And he talks about one climber in particular who didn't make it off the mountain. And his one mantra when others were turning around was, I've invested too much of myself. I've spent too much time. He had to work many jobs, obviously, to make this second summit attempt. And he invested too much time to turn back now. And they also did a little social experiment where they have an auction. You have to listen to the episode, but they're basically auctioning off a $5 bill. And whatever you bid, you have to pay, even if you're the losing bidder. So the winning bidder gets to win the $5. The losing bidder pays. And the winning bid will surprise you. Watch the podcast and you'll see. But the whole point he was trying to illustrate in this episode, and it's a great episode. They're like 29-minute, 28-minute episodes, a lot of soundtracks, a lot of high quality production value. They really put some money into this with Dan, and it's a really good podcast. I really like it. I really commend it. It's quick and it teaches you something about yourself and about your customers and about life. But the whole point of this episode was the sunk cost fallacy, and I want to talk about a little piece of that maybe you're suffering from today. And this is not geared towards any one customer. Every customer I've had these kind of conversations with, and I probably will for the next decade or two, as long as I keep doing this. As long as I have, I can't say as long as I have hair, but as long as I have breath, and as long as I'm consulting, I'll have these conversations. In short, the sunk cost fallacy says that you've put money into it, you've put so much time, you've put yourself into this, so I can't stop now because I'm going to lose all that stuff I put into it. Well, especially to my SaaS companies, which are really most of our customers, so this is really not geared towards any one client, I promise. A lot of our SaaS customers get into this, and anybody who makes software especially falls into this trap, where this is our design. We built this design N years ago or N decades ago, and it's worked. And we spent a lot of time, spent a lot of money, we spent a lot of heartache and a lot of, just those, we went to battle for this database design. We fought hard for it. And And maybe it's not doing the job. Maybe it's not getting it done. Maybe it's a server and you're in an IT department. Maybe it's the data warehouse project. I was on one famous data warehouse project at one company, and the manager was very proud of himself for effectively causing that warehouse project to fail. But it was actually the right thing. That warehouse project needed to come off the tracks. It was going wrong, dead wrong. A lot of bad decisions, a lot of just, you name it, it was going wrong. But the train was just kept on chugging down the tracks. Chugga. We got to go. We invested money. We paid for consultants. We paid for management consultants. We paid for technical consultants. We had a whole team of us full-timers. We can't get rid of this project. That was the mentality, but it was wrong. And if he didn't have the courage to set some charges on the tracks ahead, they would have spent a lot more money, and they would have still had to redo it. So that's the message, right? Sunk cost fallacy basically says it's this lie we tell ourselves. I can't give up what I've already invested. We have to keep going this way. And actually, I have another quick little video, even quicker than this one. I'm going to do after this one, talking about inertia and why you can't rely on sunk cost fallacy to slack off for your customers. I'll talk about that in the next video. But we tell ourselves this lie, and a lot of us make really stupid decisions, including not fixing the problems that have been there, including not going in and dealing with the problems because we're just a little bit afraid that we're going to look like idiots. That was my baby. I was a champion. We spent this much money on it. But sometimes it's actually better to say, you know what, let's stop and assess where we are and let's see what makes sense. Now, maybe you don't have to throw everything away, but maybe there's some really bad fundamental challenges in your code, in your database design, in your architectural assumptions, in whatever project you're working on that need to change. And if you don't have the courage to say, it's time to stop, it's time to turn around and at least stop and think about where we are. And I'm open to coming down the mountain. If you're not willing to do that, how much money are you going to keep sinking into this for potentially a foregone conclusion? So the takeaway for us in leadership and management, technologists, CIOs, CTOs, product managers, it's to really be ready to say, oh no, this isn't a great idea. And that's really hard to do. That takes courage. I'm going to stop because I've already gone about 8 minutes here, and I want you to have more time to check that podcast out. So I'm going to either put a blog post up for this video or just throw it out there on LinkedIn like I do sometimes, and maybe Facebook or Twitter. And I'll put a link at the very least to that Choiceology or Choiceology, I say Choiceology episode. It's episode number 3, so it's a brand new podcast, and I really love it, and I think you may love it too. So anyway, have a great day, and again, I'm going to do another video. I won't post it today, though, I promise. Thanks. Bye-bye.